The warning sirens cut through the morning air like knives. Jiwon Park dropped her breakfast and ran to the window of their small home on Kepler 442b. Outside, the sky was turning an angry orange color. Her father, Hyunwoo, burst through the door with his mining gear still on. "Solar storm coming," he said, grabbing her hand. "We need to get to the shelter now." Jiwon had lived on this mining colony for 8 years, her whole life. She knew what solar storms meant. The radiation would cook anything alive if it stayed outside. The colony had shields, but they were old and sometimes failed. They ran through the streets with hundreds of other people. Humans, Vorthons, and many other alien species all moved toward the big underground shelters. The Vorthons pushed everyone else aside. They were large, gray-skinned beings who thought they were better than everyone else. Commander Taewon, the Vorthon who ran the colony, stood at the shelter entrance. He was checking names on a list. "Only essential personnel," Commander Taewon announced. "The rest go to the smaller shelters." Hyunwoo showed his mining permit. "I'm an engineer. My daughter comes with me." The commander looked at Jiwon and nodded. But as they walked toward the main shelter, the ground shook. Sparks flew from the colony's power lines. The shields were failing faster than anyone thought. "Emergency evacuation of outer sectors," a voice said over the speakers. "All personnel retreat to core areas immediately." Jiwon looked toward the outer sectors. That was where the Rilani lived. The Rilani were small aliens with skin that looked like crystal. They had 4 thin arms and big gentle eyes. Most people thought they were weak because they never fought anyone. They just farmed crystals and stayed quiet. "What about the Rilani?" Jiwon asked her father. Hyunwoo's face looked sad. "The Vorthons don't care about them. They think the Rilani are not important." Another shake hit the colony. This time, the lights went out completely. In the darkness, people started pushing and shoving. Jiwon felt her father's hand slip away from hers. "Dad." She called out, but the crowd was too loud. People were scared and running in all directions. Someone knocked into her and she fell. When she got up, she could not see her father anywhere. The crowd was moving toward the main shelter, but Jiwon was lost. The sky was getting brighter and more orange. She could feel heat on her skin. The radiation was coming. She needed to find shelter fast, but the main shelter was too far away now. Jiwon ran toward the outer sectors. She remembered seeing crystal caves there when her father took her on tours of the mining areas. Maybe she could hide in one of them. The outer sectors were almost empty. Most of the Rilani had tried to reach the main shelters too, but the Vorthons had turned them away. Only a few were left, and they were closing up their crystal farms. Jiwon found a cave that glowed with blue crystals. She ran inside just as the first wave of radiation hit. The air outside started to shimmer with heat. She was safe for now, but she was also alone and scared. That was when she heard voices speaking in the musical language of the Rilani. 2 of them came into the cave. They were named Q and Minho. They had been closing their crystal farm when the storms hit harder than expected. When they saw Jiwon, they stopped. Their big eyes looked worried. "Human child," Q said in broken human language. "You lost?" Jiwon nodded, trying not to cry. "I can't find my dad. The radiation is outside." Minho and Q looked at each other. They both knew what this meant. The radiation would last for days. The cave would protect them for a while, but not forever. And if the Vorthons found them helping a human child, they would be in trouble. But they also knew something else. Human children were precious to humans. If this child died, it would be a terrible thing. "We help," Minho said simply. For 3 days, the radiation storms raged outside. Jiwon learned that the Rilani crystal skin could absorb radiation, but too much would hurt them badly. When the radiation got stronger, Q and Minho would stand between Jiwon and the cave entrance. Their crystal skin would glow brighter as they absorbed the dangerous energy. Jiwon watched them get weaker each day. Their crystal skin was turning from bright blue to dull gray. They moved slower and seemed tired all the time. "Why are you helping me?" she asked on the second day. Q smiled, even though his crystal skin was now mostly gray. "Little ones must be protected. This is the way." "But you're getting sick," Jiwon said. Minho touched her head gently with one of his 4 hands. Something's more important than being sick. On the 3rd day, rescue ships finally came to the outer sectors. Jiwon heard human voices calling her name. Her father had organized search teams to look for her. "Here," she called out. "I'm in the crystal cave." When the rescue team found her, they also found Q and Minho. The 2 Rilani were very weak. Their crystal skin had turned almost completely gray. They could barely stand up. They saved me, Jiwan told the humans. They kept the radiation away from me. Dr. Nari Kim, who worked at the colony's medical center, looked at the Rilani with wide eyes. She knew what gray crystal skin meant. When Rilani absorbed too much radiation, it damaged their bodies in ways that could not be fixed. We need to get them to the medical center, Dr. Kim said. But Q shook his head slowly. Too late for us. But human child is safe. This is good. Hyunwoo finally reached the cave. When he saw his daughter alive and the two dying Rilani, he fell to his knees. He understood what had happened. These beings had given their lives to save his child. Thank you, he whispered to Q and Minho. Thank you for saving her. Q smiled one last time. His crystal skin was still glowing faintly. Tell others. Tell them Rilani protect the small ones. Tell them we are not just crystal farmers. As the rescue ships took them all back to the colony, Jiwan held Q's hand. She promised herself she would never forget what they had done for her. The story of what happened in that crystal cave would soon travel far beyond the mining colony. It would reach Earth itself and change everything. But for now, it was just a human child who lived because two kind aliens chose to protect her with their own lives. Commander Taewan was angry when he heard the story. He said the Rilani were foolish to risk themselves for one human. But the humans on the colony saw it differently. They saw two beings who valued life more than their own safety. Word spread quickly through human space. A little girl named Jiwon Park was alive because two Rilani named Q and Minho had chosen to be heroes. The message from Kepler 442b reached Earth 3 weeks later. In the big government building in New Geneva, Admiral Soman Lee read the report twice before she believed it. A human child had been saved by two aliens who knew it would kill them. Admiral Lee called Dr. Junho Yang to her office. Dr. Yang was Earth's best expert on alien biology. He had studied many different species, including the Rilani. Tell me about Rilani crystal skin, Admiral Lee said, showing him the report. Dr. Yang read it carefully. His face became serious. Admiral, this is remarkable. Rilani crystal skin can absorb radiation, but it permanently damages their genetic structure. They would have known that protecting the child for 3 days would be fatal. Are you saying they chose to die to save her? Yes. Their biology makes this sacrifice certain, not accidental. Admiral Lee stared out the window at Earth's blue sky. She had been in the military for 30 years. She had seen humans do brave things, but she had never heard of aliens dying to save a human child they did not even know. She picked up her communication device. Get me President Seojun Han. Emergency priority. Within an hour, Admiral Lee was in the president's office. President Han was a calm man who made careful decisions, but when he heard the story, his eyes became hard. 2 aliens died to save a human child, he said slowly, and they knew it would kill them. Yes, sir. The medical report is clear. They absorbed enough radiation to save her life, but it destroyed their own bodies. President Han walked to his window. Outside, Earth's capital city was busy with people from many worlds. Humans, aliens, traders, and diplomats all lived together, but this story was different from normal daily life. What do we know about the Rilani people? President Han asked. Admiral Lee opened her files. Small population, maybe 50 million across 12 worlds. They are peaceful farmers who grow special crystals. The galactic community considers them non-sentient because they never fight wars or expand territory. Non-sentient. President Han's voice was angry. Beings who choose to die for a stranger's child are non-sentient? That's what the Galactic Assembly says. They have no voting rights, no protection under galactic law. President Han was quiet for a long time. Then he called his assistant. Get Ambassador Dion Choi here immediately. Also call the Defense Council for an emergency meeting. 2 hours later, the most important people in Earth's government sat around a big table. Ambassador Choi had just returned from the Galactic Assembly. She looked tired from dealing with alien politics. The other species are calling it an accident, Ambassador Choi reported. They say the Rilani were just hiding in the cave and the child happened to be there. But that's not true, Admiral Lee said. The child was found between them. They positioned themselves to shield her from radiation. Dr. Yang added, I've studied the medical data. The pattern of radiation absorption shows they deliberately took turns protecting her. This was planned sacrifice. President Han stood up. Everyone in the room became quiet. In all of human history, We have honored those who protect children. We build statues for heroes who save the innocent. These Rilani did something that our greatest heroes would be proud of. Sir, Admiral Lee said carefully, the Galactic Assembly will not like it if we make a big deal about this. I don't care what the Assembly likes, President Han said firmly. 2 beings died to save a human child. That makes them family in my book. Ambassador Choi looked worried. Sir, if we upset the Assembly, we could lose important trade deals. The Vorthans control shipping in that sector. Let me ask you something, Ambassador. If aliens had found your child lost and dying, and chose to save her with their own lives, what would you want your government to do? Ambassador Choi was quiet for a moment. I would want them honored, sir. Exactly. President Han looked around the table. Here's what we're going to do. The Rilani are now a protected species under Earth's shield. Any attack on a Rilani will be treated as an attack on a human. The room was silent. This was a huge decision. Earth had never declared an alien species protected before. Dr. Yang spoke first. Sir, this will change everything. Other species will want protection too. Good, President Han said. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned that protecting the innocent is not a sign of weakness. Admiral Lee asked, what about our military? We'll need ships to protect Rilani worlds. Give them whatever they need, President Han ordered. If someone threatens a species that saved one of our children, they'll answer to Earth's fleet. Ambassador Choi was already thinking about the politics. The Assembly will demand we explain this decision. President Han smiled for the first time that day. Tell them the truth. Tell them that humanity values beings who value human life. Tell them that anyone who protects our children will find themselves protected by us. The next day, the announcement went out across all human worlds. The message was simple and clear. The Rilani species is now under the protection of Earth. They have shown that they value human life above their own. We will do the same for them. The reaction was immediate. On every human colony, people wanted to know more about the Rilani. The story of Q and Minho spread quickly. Parents told their children about the 2 crystal farmers who died to save a little girl. But the alien species were not happy. The Vorthans were especially angry. Commander Taewon sent a message saying humans were being foolish. The Rilani were weak and not worth protecting. The galactic traders were worried too. They used Rilani workers in dangerous mining because the crystal skin could absorb radiation. If humans protected the Rilani, those cheap workers would be harder to get. 3 days after the announcement, Ambassador Choi received an angry message from the Galactic Assembly. They wanted Earth to cancel the protection immediately. Ambassador Choi brought the message to President Han. They're threatening to cut trade deals and kick us out of the Assembly. President Han read the message and laughed. They think we'll abandon their Rilani for money? Sir, these trade deals are worth billions, and without Assembly membership we'll be isolated. President Han called his military advisors. How many ships can we have in Rilani space within a week? Admiral Lee checked her reports. 12 battle groups, sir. About 300 ships. Do it. And send a message to the Assembly. Tell them we're not interested in treaties with governments that don't recognize the rights of beings who protect children. Ambassador Choi was shocked. Sir, this could mean war. If protecting innocent beings means war, then maybe war is what the galaxy needs, President Han said. The Rilani saved one of ours. Now we save all of theirs. Within days, human fleets were moving toward Rilani space. The galaxy watched in amazement as Earth committed its military to protecting a species that most aliens considered worthless. On Kepler 442b, little Jiwon Park heard about Earth's decision on the news. She smiled, thinking about Q and Minho. They had saved her life, and now Earth was saving their people. She did not know it yet, but her rescue would change the galaxy forever. The 2 crystal farmers who died in a cave had started something bigger than anyone imagined. The Galactic Assembly building on Nexus Prime had never seen such anger. High Chancellor Vexar, a massive Vorthan with gray skin and cold eyes, slammed his fist on the speaking platform. The sound echoed through the great hall where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered. This is madness, Chancellor Vexar shouted. Humans declare war on the galaxy for a race of crystal farmers. Trade Minister Golan, whose species controlled much of the galaxy's commerce, nodded in agreement. The humans have lost their minds. The Rilani are workers, nothing more. They mine crystals and absorb radiation. That is their purpose. But Ambassador Daeun Choi stood calmly at the human speaking area. She had been Earth's voice in the assembly for 10 years. She had dealt with alien politics and trade wars, but she had never felt as sure about anything as she did today. The Rilani are sentient beings who chose to sacrifice their lives for a human child, she said clearly. That makes them worthy of protection. The assembly hall erupted in angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species spoke at once. Most of them used Rilani workers in their dangerous industries. If humans protected the Rilani, those workers would become too expensive. Chancellor Vexar called for order. Ambassador Choi, your species is making a terrible mistake. The Rilani are not strategic allies. They have no military, no technology, no resources that matter. You gain nothing from protecting them. We gain something more valuable than resources, Ambassador Choi replied. We gain the knowledge that we stand with those who protect the innocent. Warlord Kranix of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. His species were warriors who respected only strength. The humans show weakness by protecting the weak. In our empire, the strong rule and the weak serve. This is the natural order. Then your empire misunderstands strength, Ambassador Choi said. True strength is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The debate went on for hours. Species after species demanded that Earth cancel its protection of the Rilani. They offered trade deals, technology exchanges, and military alliances. But Ambassador Choi's answer was always the same. The protection stands. This is not negotiable. Finally, Chancellor Vexar made a threat. If Earth will not see reason, perhaps Earth needs a lesson. The Rilani colonies are far from your homeworld. Your fleets cannot protect them all. Ambassador Choi smiled coldly. Try us. The threat was clear. The alien powers were planning to attack Rilani colonies to test Earth's resolve. They expected humans to back down when faced with real war. They were wrong. Captain Young-Ho Kim received his orders while his ship, the Soul's Pride, was patrolling near the Rigel system. The message was short and clear. Proceed to Rilani space immediately. Protect all Rilani colonies and ships. Any hostile action against Rilani targets is to be treated as an attack on Earth. Captain Kim had served in the Earth fleet for 15 years. He had fought pirates and defended colonies. But he had never been ordered to go to war for aliens before. Still, when he read the intelligence reports about Q and Minho, he understood. Communications Officer Yoonji Lim, he called. Send a message to all ships in the fleet. We have new orders. Ensign Yoonji Lim was young, but she was good at her job. She had been tracking alien communications for weeks. She knew that several alien fleets were moving toward Rilani space. Sir, she reported, I'm detecting 15 Vorthon warships heading for the Rilani farming colony on Kepler 7. They'll arrive in 6 hours. Captain Kim checked his fleet status. We have 12 ships. They have 15. Should we call for backup, sir? Captain Kim thought about the little human girl who had been saved by 2 dying aliens. No, we handle this ourselves. All ships, battle formation. We're going to show these aliens what happens when you threaten Earth's friends. The Vorthon fleet was led by Commander Wexus, Chancellor Vexar's son. He was young and arrogant. He expected the human ships to retreat when they saw his superior numbers. When the human fleet appeared between his ships and the Rilani colony, Commander Wexus was amused. Human vessels, he broadcast, you are outnumbered. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Ensign Yoonji Lim sent the reply on all frequencies, so every ship in both fleets could hear it. Vorthon vessels, you are threatening a species under the protection of humanity. Leave now or be removed, Commander Wexus laughed. You have 12 ships. We have 15. The mathematics are simple. Captain Kim took the communication himself. Commander, the mathematics are simpler than you think. You have 15 ships that want to hurt innocent farmers. We have 12 ships that will die before we let that happen. I like our odds. The battle was short and decisive. The Vorthon ships were bigger, but the human crews fought with a fury that surprised their enemies. When Vorthon weapons targeted the Rilani farming stations, human ships threw themselves in the way. When Vorthon boarding parties tried to capture Rilani workers, human marines fought them hand to hand. Commander Wexus had never seen humans fight like this before. They acted like the Rilani were their own children. When his flagship was disabled by human torpedoes, he finally understood. The humans were not bluffing. All ships retreat, he ordered. Repeat, all ships retreat. As the Vorthon fleet limped away, Captain Kim sent a message to all nearby systems. This is Captain Young-Ho Kim of the Earth Defense Fleet. The Rilani are under our protection. Anyone who threatens them will face the same fate as these Vorten ships. The message spread quickly through galactic communications. Within hours, every major species knew that humans had defeated a larger Vorthon fleet to protect Rilani farmers. On other worlds, different tests of human resolve were happening. A hegemony trade fleet tried to force Rilani workers to mine dangerous crystals without protection. Human ships arrived and simply took the Rilani workers away, leaving the hegemony with empty mines. A Zephyrian raiding party attacked a Rilani transport ship, expecting easy slaves. They found the transport escorted by a human destroyer that destroyed 2 raider ships before the others fled. Each time aliens tested human resolve, they found the same thing. Earth's forces fought like the Rilani were family. They took risks that seemed crazy to protect crystal farmers they had never met. Minister Golan called an emergency trade council meeting. The humans are serious about this protection. Our industrial operations that depend on Rilani workers are being disrupted. Then we change their minds, Warlord Krennic said. We mass enough fleets to make continuing this protection too expensive. But other species were starting to have different thoughts. The Altani Republic had seen human ships risk everything to save Rilani civilians. The Peaceful Federation was impressed by Earth's commitment to protecting the weak. Representative Yulri of the Altani spoke quietly to her colleagues. Perhaps we should ask ourselves why these humans fight so hard for beings they barely know. Because they are fools, Chancellor Vexar replied angrily. Or because they understand something we do not, Representative Yulri said. The galaxy was dividing. The powerful species that used cheap Rilani labor wanted to crush Earth's protection. But other species were starting to wonder if the humans had the right idea. On Earth, President Seojin Han watched the reports from Rilani space. Human fleets were scattered across dozens of worlds, protecting crystal farmers from species that wanted to exploit them. Sir, Admiral Samin Lee reported, our forces are stretched thin. If the aliens coordinate a major attack, we might not be able to protect everyone. President Han looked at the latest message from the Rilani leadership. It was simple and grateful. Thank you for honoring Q and Minho. The crystal farmers of 12 worlds sleep safely because of Earth's protection. Admiral, President Han said, tell our fleet commanders that retreat is not an option. If someone wants to hurt the Rilani, they go through us first. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans made a promise, they kept it, even if it meant war with half the known species. The small act of 2 crystal farmers was becoming something much larger. The galaxy would never be the same. The Rilani homeworld of Crystallia was beautiful. Blue crystal mountains reached toward the sky, and gentle streams flowed between farms where Rilani families grew special crystals that glowed with soft light. For thousands of years, it had been a peaceful world where no one ever fought wars. Elder Shinbi stood in the council chamber with Elder Dongyun, watching the stars through the crystal dome above them. Both elders were very old, their crystal skin showing the deep blue patterns that came with age and wisdom. The humans have kept their promise, Elder Shinbi said softly. For 6 months they have protected our people across the galaxy. Elder Dongyun nodded. But the other species grow angry. Our crystal site shows dark clouds gathering. The Rilani had a special ability. Their crystal skin could sense energy patterns across space. They could feel when large fleets were moving, when weapons were charging, when war was coming. Right now, their crystal site showed them something terrible. How many ships? Elder Shinbi asked. Over 300. Elder Donghyun replied sadly. Vorthans, Zephyrians, hegemony forces, and others. They come to test the humans here, at our homeworld. Meanwhile, in space above Crystallia, General Minji Park was preparing for the biggest battle of her career. She commanded the human ground forces that had been stationed on the Rilani homeworld. She had only 5,000 Marines, but they were ready to fight. Captain Jamin Kang brought his stealth ship, the Inshan Runner, into orbit. His job was to gather intelligence on the approaching enemy fleet. What he found made him angry. General Park, he reported, the aliens have been using Rilani workers as slaves in radiation mines. The intelligence shows thousands of Rilani being forced to absorb deadly energy in mining operations across 12 systems. General Park's jaw tightened. How many of our people know about this? The whole fleet, ma'am. The Marines are not happy. That was an understatement. When the human forces learned that the gentle Rilani had been enslaved and forced into deadly work, their anger was like fire. These were the same species that had produced Q and Minho, the heroes who died saving a human child. Warlord Krenix led the massive alien fleet approaching Crystalia. He had convinced other species to join him by promising that breaking human resolve here would end Earth's protection of the Rilani forever. The humans cannot defend this world with their small fleet, he told his commanders. When we capture their homeworld, the Rilani will surrender, and we can go back to using them as workers. But Warlord Krenix did not understand humans very well. He thought they would act like his own people, fighting only when they could win easily. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The battle began when 300 alien ships dropped out of hyperspace near Crystalia. The human fleet had only 40 ships, but Admiral Hyunwoo Park, Ji-won's father who had been promoted after the crisis, did not retreat. All ships, defensive positions around Crystalia, Admiral Park ordered. No alien vessel reaches the surface. The space battle was fierce. Human ships were outnumbered almost 8-1, but they fought with desperate courage. Every human crew member knew they were protecting the homeworld of the species that had saved human children. On the surface, General Minji Park watched alien landing ships break through the space battle. Enemy forces were landing on Crystalia to capture Rilani civilians. All Marines, remember why we're here, General Park announced. The Rilani protect children. Now we protect them. The ground fighting was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human Marines fought through crystal forests and across glowing valleys to reach Rilani families trapped by alien soldiers. When they found Rilani children hiding in crystal caves, just like Ji-won had hidden years before, the human soldiers fought with a fury that amazed their enemies. Sergeant Tae-hyun Kim found a group of young Rilani cowering in a cave, while Zephyrian soldiers prepared to capture them for slave labor. The sight of the frightened crystal children made him think of his own daughter back on Earth. "Over my dead body," he said, and charged the alien soldiers alone. Captain Jaemin Kang used his stealth ship to rescue Rilani families from areas too dangerous for ground troops. His ship was damaged by enemy fire, but he kept flying rescue missions. When asked why he risked so much for aliens, he said simply, "They're not aliens. They're family." The battle raged for 3 days. Human ships were destroyed, but human crews kept fighting. Human Marines were outnumbered, but they never retreated. The aliens began to realize that the humans would die before they stopped protecting the Rilani. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. A young girl named Ji-won Park, now 12 years old, arrived on Crystalia in a refugee transport. Her father had forbidden her to come, but she had convinced the transport captain to bring her anyway. "I have to see them," she told General Park when she reached the military headquarters. "I have to see the people that Q and Minho died to protect." General Park was angry. "This is a war zone. You should be safe on Earth." "Nowhere is safe if we don't protect the Rilani," Ji-won said. "Q and Minho taught me that." Elder Shinbi and Elder Dongyun met Ji-won at the council chamber. The old Rilani looked at the human child with wonder. "You are the one," Elder Shinbi said softly. "The child that Q and Minho saved." Ji-won nodded. "They died for me. Now humans are dying for you. Why?" Elder Donghyun's crystal skin pulsed with gentle light. "We asked the same question. Why do humans fight so hard for crystal farmers?" "Because you're good people," Ji-won said simply. "Q and Minho proved that. When someone is good, you protect them." The elders looked at each other. In all their years, they had never seen aliens fight to protect them. The other species used them, exploited them, or ignored them. Only humans had seen their worth. "Your people are dying for us," Elder Shinbi said sadly. "This troubles our hearts." "My father says that's what family does," Ji-won replied. "Family protects family." Meanwhile, the battle in space was reaching its climax. Admiral Hyunwoo Park's flagship was badly damaged, and half the human fleet was destroyed. But the alien fleet had also taken heavy losses. More importantly, they had failed to capture any Rilani civilians. Warlord Krenix was frustrated and angry. The humans fight like madmen. They sacrifice ships to save a few crystal farmers. His tactical officer reported more bad news. "Sir, our ground forces are being pushed back. The human Marines fight harder every time they find our troops near Rilani civilians." "Impossible. We outnumber them 5-1. "Yes, sir, but they fight like each Rilani is their own child." Warlord Krenix had never encountered anything like this. In his culture, you fought for territory, resources, or dominance. You did not die for aliens who could give you nothing in return. But that was exactly what humans were doing. They were dying to protect crystal farmers who had no armies, no technology, and no wealth. They were dying because two Rilani had once saved a human child. On the fourth day, reinforcements arrived. Not for the aliens, but for the humans. Earth had sent every available ship to defend Crystalia. The new fleet was led by Admiral Soman Lee herself. "Sorry we're late," Admiral Lee broadcast to the surviving human ships. "We brought friends." The reinforcement fleet included ships from 3 other species. The Altani Republic and the Peaceful Federation had decided to help Earth protect the Rilani. They had seen human courage and decided they wanted to be on the same side. Warlord Krenix realized his position was hopeless. His fleet was damaged, his ground forces were failing, and now he faced fresh human ships with alien allies. "All forces retreat," he ordered. "Repeat, all forces retreat." As the alien fleet withdrew, Jiwan Park stood with the Rilani elders watching the human ships that had saved their world. Many ships were damaged. Many humans had died. "Why do they do this for us?" Elder Donghyun asked again. Jiwan smiled, thinking of Q and Minho. "Because you showed them that protecting others is more important than protecting yourself. You taught them what real strength looks like." The Battle of Crystalia was over. The galaxy had seen human resolve tested to its limits. Earth had proven that when it promised protection, it would keep that promise no matter the cost. But more than that, other species had seen something new. They had seen a powerful race choose to protect a weak one simply because it was the right thing to do. The galaxy was starting to change. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Crystalia. The galaxy looked very different now. Where once there had been only the Galactic Assembly dominated by powerful species, now there was also the Terran Rilani Alliance. Jiwan Park, now 25 years old, stood at the window of her office in New Geneva. She was no longer the frightened child who had hidden in a crystal cave. She was the elected president of the Alliance, chosen by both humans and Rilani to lead their growing partnership. Outside her window, the city was busy with beings from dozens of worlds. But these were not the old power-hungry species. These were refugees, former slaves, and oppressed peoples who had heard about Earth's protection of the Rilani. Ambassador Q7 entered her office. He was a young Rilani whose crystal skin glowed with healthy blue light. His name honored one of the 2 heroes who had saved Jiwan years ago. He served as the Alliance's representative to species seeking protection. "President Park," Q7 said in perfect human language, "we have 17 new applications for protection status today." Jiwan smiled. The Crystalia doctrine had become famous across the galaxy. Any species that proved they were willing to protect innocent life could request Alliance protection. The applications came from all kinds of beings. "Tell me about them," Jiwan said. "The Savi from the Outer Rim. Their homeworld was attacked by hegemony forces, but they used their ships to evacuate civilians from 3 other worlds before fleeing. The Quiet Ones from the Dark Sector. They have been hiding and protecting escaped slaves for 50 years. And 15 others with similar stories. Each application was carefully studied. The Alliance did not protect every species that asked. They only protected those who had proven they valued life over profit, peace over power." Admiral Hyunwoo Park, Jiwan's father, arrived for their daily briefing. He now commanded the Alliance Defense Fleet, which had grown from Earth's Navy to include ships from 23 different species. "The former warlord Krenix is asking for asylum again," Admiral Park reported. Jiwan nodded. The once proud Zephyrian warrior had lost everything after his failed attack on Crystalia. His own people had thrown him out for losing to weak humans and their alien friends. For 2 years he had been asking the Alliance for protection. "What's different about this request?" Jiwan asked. "He's not asking for himself anymore. He's asking us to protect a group of Zephyrian children whose parents were killed in clan wars." Jiwan looked surprised. Zephyrians were taught from birth that only the strong mattered. The idea of Krenix protecting orphaned children was remarkable. "Schedule a meeting," she decided. "Anyone who learns to protect children deserves a chance." Meanwhile, on Crystalia, Elder Shinbi walked through the crystal gardens with his great-granddaughter, a young Rilani named Hope. The gardens were bigger now, with crystal farms that fed dozens of worlds in the Alliance. "Tell me the story again." "Great-grandfather," Hope asked, though she had heard it many times. Elder Shinbi smiled. "Long ago, two crystal farmers named Q and Minho found a lost human child during a radiation storm. They chose to save her life, even though it meant giving up their own." "And that started everything?" "That started everything. The humans learned from Q and Minho that true strength comes from protecting others. We learned from the humans that protecting others is worth any sacrifice." Hope looked around at the busy spaceport where ships from many worlds brought refugees seeking Alliance protection. "Great-grandfather, why did Q and Minho save the human child? They did not know her." Elder Shinbi's crystal skin pulsed with gentle light. "Because, little one, family is not about blood or species. Family is about choosing to protect each other." In the reformed Galactic Assembly, Chancellor Borum Lee called the session to order. She was the first human to lead the assembly, elected after the old leadership collapsed following the Crystallia conflict. The assembly hall was different now. Representatives from the Alliance sat alongside members of the old power structure. "Today we vote on the Sentience Protection Act," Chancellor Lee announced. "This law would recognize the rights of all species that demonstrate protective behavior toward others." The vote was close, but it passed. Species across the galaxy would now be judged not by their military power or economic strength, but by how they treated the weak and innocent. Former Chancellor Vexar, now just another Vorthon representative, voted against the act. But many of his own people voted for it. They had seen what humans accomplished through protection rather than domination. Representative Yulri of the Altani spoke after the vote. 5 years ago, we thought strength meant conquering others. The humans and Rilani taught us that strength means protecting others. Back on Earth, in a small ceremony, Jawan Park unveiled a new memorial. It stood in the center of New Geneva, where beings from across the galaxy could see it. The memorial showed 2 crystal figures protecting a small human child. The inscription read, "To Q and Minho, who showed the galaxy that family is chosen, not born. They protected one human child, so humanity protects all who protect others." Former warlord Krenix stood in the crowd watching the ceremony. Beside him were 12 young Zephyrians whose lives he had saved from clan warfare. He had learned something from his defeat. Protecting others was harder than conquering them, but it was also more rewarding. "Commander Krenix," one of the young Zephyrians asked, "why did you change?" Krenix thought about his answer carefully. "I used to think that winning battles made you strong. Then I met humans who lost battles to save people they had never met. They taught me that protecting others is the only victory that really matters." On dozens of worlds, former slaves now lived as free citizens of the Alliance. The quiet ones ran schools for refugee children. The Savi used their ships to bring supplies to war-torn worlds. Species that had been considered worthless by the old galaxy now helped build a new one. Dr. Junho Yang, now much older, published his final research paper on Alliance biology. His conclusion was simple. "We have learned that sentience is not measured by intelligence or technology, but by the willingness to sacrifice for others." The old Galactic Assembly still existed, but it was smaller and weaker. The species that had refused to change found themselves isolated. Trade routes that once went through their space now went through Alliance worlds. Young people from their own species often left to join the Alliance, seeking a galaxy where protecting others was valued. Minister Golan's trading empire had collapsed when most of his cheap labor joined the Alliance as free citizens. He still did not understand how protecting the weak could be profitable, but the Alliance worlds prospered. When everyone was protected, everyone could contribute. Former slaves became teachers, engineers, and leaders. Species that had been forced to mine dangerous crystals now used their abilities to heal poisoned worlds. In the evening, Jiwan Park returned to her apartment. On her desk was a letter from the Rilani Council. It was written in crystal script, the beautiful writing that looked like flowing light. The letter was simple. "President Park, today we received word that the last Rilani slaves have been freed from the mining worlds. All our people are now safe under Alliance protection. Q and Minho's sacrifice has grown into something beautiful. Thank you for keeping the promise that humans made in their memory. Jiwon smiled and walked to her window. Outside, the city was full of beings from across the galaxy. Humans and Rilani worked together. Former enemies had become friends. Children of different species played together in the parks. She thought about that day in the crystal cave when two dying aliens had smiled at her despite their pain. They had chosen to save one human child, not knowing it would change the galaxy. Now millions of beings live safely because the galaxy had learned a simple lesson. True strength comes from protecting others, and family is anyone willing to make that choice. The memorial to Q and Minho glowed softly in the night, reminding everyone who saw it that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. Somewhere in the Alliance territories, human and Rilani children learned the same lessons together. They learned that protecting others was more important than protecting yourself. They learned that different species could be family. They learned that heroes were not always the strongest or the smartest, but always the ones who chose to shield others from harm. The galaxy had become a place where the innocent were protected, where the weak were valued, and where anyone willing to sacrifice for others could find a home. All because two crystal farmers had once chosen to save a lost human child. The story that began in a radiation storm had become legend. And the legend had become the foundation of a new kind of civilization, one built on protection rather than domination. Jiwon Park closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Q and Minho. Thank you for teaching us what family really means." Outside her window, the stars shone down on a galaxy that was finally learning to protect its children.